Democrats will seek to show Donald Trump incited the U.S. Capitol riot last month as the former president's impeachment trial continues in the next few hours. They'll also focus on the damage caused by the riot. The coronavirus variant first found in the UK could become the world's dominant strain. That's the prediction from the head of Britain's genetic surveillance programme, who says her work sequencing variants could be required for a decade. The family of Saudi women's rights activist Loujain Al-Hathloul says she's been tortured in prison and will try and bring the perpetrators to justice. She was released on Wednesday after 3 years in jail. And the head of the Tokyo Olympics Organising Committee is to resign after sexist comments which sparked outrage in Japan.
President Biden spoke with Chinese President Xi Jinping yesterday for the first time since taking office. The White House said Biden raised issues that have divided the two nations, including trade, security, and human rights, while leaving open the possibility of working together on climate change and nuclear proliferation. Democrats aired previously unreleased footage from the riot at the U.S. Capitol as they presented their case against former President Donald Trump in his second impeachment trial. The lawmakers also relied on Trump's own words as they argued he, quote, assembled, inflamed, and incited the attack. Lawmakers will continue their arguments today, after which Trump's team will have 16 hours over 2 days to make its case. We're exclusively reporting that an executive at Chinese tech giant Tencent has been held by authorities in China as part of a probe into a corruption case. Zhang Feng has been under investigation over alleged unauthorized sharing of personal data. Tencent operates messaging app WeChat. Tencent confirmed the executive is under investigation, but said the case, quote, relates to allegations of personal corruption and has no relation to WeChat. And in the U.S., traders will be watching weekly jobless numbers this morning. PepsiCo and Kraft Heinz report quarterly earnings before the bell, and Disney reports after markets close.
We start here in Japan, where the controversy surrounding the head of the Tokyo Organizing Committee of the Olympic and Paralympic Games. Sources say Mori Yoshiro has decided to resign. Mori is a former prime minister. He's faced a barrage of criticism for remarks demeaning women. Last week, Mori said committee board meetings attended by lots of women drag on far too long because they talk too much. Mori is 83 years old and has been in the post since 2014. Hundreds of volunteers and a member of the torch relay have quit the games in protest. The uproar comes as planning and preparations for the Tokyo Games ramp up. They're scheduled to start on July 23rd after being delayed a year due to the coronavirus pandemic. The person likely to succeed Mori as head of the organizing committee is Kawabuchi Saburo. He's the head of the Athletes Village. He met Mori on Thursday afternoon.
This would be the last big mission of my life. I'd like to do my best.
Kawabuchi also said he hopes Mori's controversial remarks will be a chance to change Japanese ideas about gender and diversity. Kawabuchi is 84 years old. He's a former soccer player who competed at the Tokyo Olympics in 1964. He was later the first chairman of Japan's professional soccer league known as the J-League. Now people on the streets have reacted positively to Mori's news.
I think it's natural that he resigns. He should have known his position a little better. He's in a position of great influence.
It was becoming an international issue. In that sense, I think his resignation is good for Japan, for the people concerned, and for the volunteers.
An International Olympic Committee member and former Olympian from Canada tweeted the word progress. Haley Wickenheiser had been critical of Mori. After his controversial remarks, she tweeted, definitely going to corner this guy at the breakfast buffet. See ya in Tokyo. Mizoguchi Noriko is a silver medalist in judo at the 1992 Barcelona Olympic Games. She suggested the Japanese hierarchy-oriented culture around sports prevented people from challenging Mori.
I think it's meaningful that the IOC, Olympic sponsors, volunteers, supporters, and the torch relay runners raised their voices saying no discrimination to the Tokyo Organizing Committee and its head.
Mizoguchi also said Japanese society needs to change, and the world is paying close attention in the remaining 5 months until the Games. Moving now to the coronavirus situation here in Japan. New daily cases of infection have been declining steadily, but authorities are urging people to remain vigilant. Japan's biggest COVID-19 hotspot is Tokyo. Officials confirmed 434 cases on Thursday. That's under 500 for the 5th consecutive day. The number of people in serious condition in the capital is 103, the same as it was the day before. A health ministry panel of experts met to discuss the caregiver situation in Tokyo and 9 other prefectures where a state of emergency remains in place.
Infections have been gradually subsiding since the state of emergency declaration. But hospital bed occupancy rates are still high.
Across Japan, health authorities reported 1,693 new infections on Thursday. 78 people died. The health ministry says the number of seriously ill patients now stands at 713, down 23 from Wednesday. The figure has now fallen for 10 days in a row. Prime Minister Suga Yoshihide said the government will start coronavirus vaccinations in the middle of next week. Authorities will first confirm the vaccine is safe and effective. U.S. President Joe Biden has spoken by phone with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping and expressed concern about China's increasing activity in the Indo-Pacific region. The White House says their first direct talks took place on Wednesday. A White House transcript of the call says Biden raised concerns about Beijing's coercive and unfair economic practices, crackdown in Hong Kong, human rights abuses in Xinjiang, and increasingly assertive actions in the region, including toward Taiwan. China's foreign ministry said Xi responded, the issues related to Taiwan, Hong Kong, and Xinjiang are China's internal affairs, noting they're about the country's sovereignty and territorial integrity. The ministry said the president suggested the U.S. side should respect China's core interests and act prudently. It also said Xi stressed cooperation between their countries is the only right choice for both sides. The ministry added Xi proposed re-establishing dialogue channels to discuss a range of diplomatic, economic, military, and other issues. The U.S. president has announced sanctions on the people responsible for the military coup in Myanmar. Biden said the U.S. will continue to work with its international partners to urge other countries to join the effort.
I've approved a new executive order enabling us to immediately sanction the military leaders who directed the coup, their business interests, as well as close family members.
He said the U.S. government will identify a first round of targets this week. Biden denounced the coup, in which the military detained political figures, including the country's de facto leader, Aung San Suu Kyi. He urged the military to release the democratic political leaders and activists and relinquish the power it seized. Biden said his administration is moving toward economic sanctions.
The U.S. government is taking steps to prevent the generals from improperly having access to the $1 billion in Burmese government funds held in the United States.
Biden also mentioned the anti-military rallies being held across Myanmar. He criticized the authorities for cracking down on protesters. He said violence against people who are asserting their democratic rights is unacceptable. Protests continued on Thursday in Yangon and the capital Naypyidaw for the 6th day in a row. Some government workers and uniformed police officers took part and refused to continue their duties. The National League for Democracy Party says at least 6 of its officials were detained on Wednesday night. It says one of those officials was a cabinet member in the administration led by Aung San Suu Kyi. The party said many other people connected with it have also been detained. On Tuesday, police and military personnel raided the party's headquarters in Yangon. The party says they seized bank books and cash. And those were the headlines we're following.